Here's what's happening. Organizations say that they invest in people's growth, but really people are just feeling depleted. Today, we unpack what it means to actually grow and develop instead of just deplete ourselves and burn out with more projects that we didn't need in the first place. Welcome to Brave Proximity, the space where leaders and changemakers finally exhale, tell the truth, and get the validation they rarely receive. This is not a how-to podcast. This is not motivational wallpaper or corporate comfort language. Here, the messy, is it just me? Moments become turning points. I'm Marissa Green.
I'm Susan Page, and we are futurists and practitioners who have spent decades inside turbulence, helping leaders who care deeply navigate culture, crisis, egos, expectations, and everything in between. We've seen the gap between what leaders and changemakers feel and what they're allowed to say. Brave Proximity is a place to close that gap. Each episode starts with the elephant in the room, often disguised as a pet peeve, and we follow it to the deeper truth underneath. We do not just talk about leadership. We get close to what leadership actually feels like.
Burnout is not a leadership pipeline. Susan, when was the last time your stretch project sent you to the therapist?
My therapist makes lots of money on my stretch projects. So let's bring the elephant out. I used to talk about this with one of my dear colleagues about the curse of the competent. Let's be honest, and the pet peeve and the elephant in the room is that growth has been confused with adding more pressure, more projects to people.
Mm-hmm.
And it often is coming now with less support. And opportunity without that support, I think, is just a rebranding of burnout.
Yeah, it's a rebrand, right? Burnout growth equals burnout in most organizations because you're expected to take on a new project without more pay, without more resources, likely even without coaching or support in doing the new thing.
Right.
All in the name of growth.
Yes.
And then the thing that also gets to me is that organizations and leaders will do this, and then they put the onus on you to develop into the new stretch project.
Right.
Like all of a sudden you're like, well, I'm also going to take this certification program over here because I decided this project, like, let's just tell the story. I'm like losing myself right now. So I remember when DEI became a project inside an organization that we worked in.
This was before when it first started.
Way before.
We
saw what was coming.
We were way ahead of the curve.
Way ahead of the curve. And it was an area that we several of us had a lot of interest and passion behind.
Yes.
Right? But it was not an area where we had expertise.
Like a lot of competence about it.
Right.
Like traditional
competence. So it was something that was, well, here's a new area of expertise and capability we're building in the organization. We need people to lead it. And so you and I were like, yes, like sign me up. I'm passionate. I want to see it go forward. And then it also meant that we had to figure out how to do it. Like, what it meant.
Yes, and we're also like, we are two white women. And I was like, I'm from Minnesota. I don't know if that counts for anything.
I know.
But we were smart. But I got to say, you're right. Like, we did not have a lot of support.
We didn't have a lot of support. And then it became... It actually became areas of expertise over time because we spent the time and we were dedicated and passionate about it. But it also became, for me personally, parts of burnout because it meant that my team, my entire role grew, but without actually adding any additional capacity to what we were doing. And I think that this happens to people a lot, not only in HR, but in other parts of the organization, where a really shiny unicorn gets like posted up on a pedestal and it's your highest performers that are going to go for it. It's the people who have the passion, who have enough competence to go learn something new. And you know they're not going to totally drop the ball. But then you tell them to take it on while also doing their day job.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's unfair. It does not set up somebody up for success. Also, high performers, the old high performer, I'm hoping like the more, the braver high performer now will raise the flag and say,
Uh-huh.
take this
Uh-huh.
off. But before, high performers were no, because they would just go. They wouldn't ask questions. They would just go. They would deliver.
It's opportunity.
Yes. And meanwhile, I mean, yes, their therapist hopefully was getting a call like, I want to die.
Oh
I am
my
so burnt
gosh.
out.
I mean, that's why I ended up going to a therapist the first time. It truly, because, and I'll call it social conditioning, whatever, corporate conditioning, whatever it is. We've not ever been taught how to effectively say no or not yet or advocate for the thing. And I will say that's not everybody. That's not universal.
No.
I think there's some people who are more inclined to do the yesing, and there are other people who are not. The other thing I'll say is that was the first time I called my therapist. It was also when I was working in an office with my husband together. We were both remote.
Oh.
And we were it literally like in an office together. He was here and I was here, and he would hear me on calls and I would hear him on calls. And for the first like 2 months that we were on these calls, I thought he was going to get fired because he was so good at drawing the line.
Yeah.
And saying, well, that's not a project that I have time for right now. I can get it done 3 months from now, or we can find someone else to do it. He was so effective at doing that. I thought he was going to get fired.
Because you had been conditioned.
Because I had been conditioned to say yes to
in
everything.
a day, in a year, I would have been fired.
Exactly. So finally, 2 months later, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need a What Would Scott Do bracelet.
We all do.
We all do. But it was my first entry into understanding that you actually can draw those boundaries.
Yeah.
And that development for development's sake isn't worth it.
It's not. It's not.
It's not worth it. Like, what race was I running?
Yeah. I mean, this is such a meaty topic, too, because in my opinion, we are still trying to figure out how to do this well at organizations, which does, it shows me that we have not slowed down to speed up.
Oh,
so
we need to have that on every episode.
Well, yeah,
we should have a big sign.
I know, slow
down.
I would like to say slow the fuck down.
Yes.
But I like to say F. But at its best, I've seen leaders create almost a brief. Here's what I'm hoping you'll learn. Here's the cadence. But at its worst, it's been like, I don't know if you can swim, but jump in. It's like I push you in. And heaven forbid.
I'm giving this to you because I don't know how to do it.
You won't say anything. And but heaven forbid you have lots of questions to ask about that. And then I think really high performers fear that is shown up as a layer of incompetence. And let me tell you something.
You get concerned.
You should have permission to be incompetent when you take on something.
New.
Yes, absolutely. And so, if you are going to give somebody a stretch assignment, you need to equally clean your slate. Or if you're handing it over to another leader, you need to prepare them for the opportunity of support. And I have seen this done really well, actually, through an intern program that I was part of and supported. I saw leaders really step up there, and I give credit to the organization that set it up in a way that they were set up for success, and I think that's important.
I also want to talk a little bit about this in the context of where organizations place their investment for growth.
Yeah.
Right? Because we've talked about where they're not putting their investment, right? They're asking your competent people to take on more without giving them any additional investment or resources. But also, I think that in the name of growth, a lot of organizations focus their investment on building training programs.
Right.
And I have nothing against a really awesome training program, but I don't think training programs produce growth.
No.
Not in the way that coaching does or right-sized experimentation.
Experiential, yep.
And so it would be interesting for organizations to start looking at what is their L&D budget?
Yeah.
What is the investment that they are making? And are there creative ways that spend could be repositioned and put somewhere differently, where it's actually giving more people access to true growth, not just learning?
Yes.
Because learning and growth are two totally different things. Like, I can learn I can learn a whole lot. Like, my brain holds a lot of
I know
knowledge,
this,
a lot of knowledge
Marissa.
and information. But if I don't integrate any of it into the way that I work, if I don't
Yeah.
embody it in the way that I am being or behaving, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. We have a lot of really dear friends that are L&D
Yes, and we
practitioners,
love
and
you.
we love you very much. But I do think what you are saying too, and my big deal is we need to reimagine how learning and development
Mhm.
occur.
Mhm.
And people have access to all the learning that they want.
Yeah.
And we can't put everybody in a stretch project. I almost am like, we need more experiential, more sharing. When I was in
Oh,
sales,
yeah.
and we would go to, and again, sorry, sales leaders and meeting management companies, but when I would go to a sales meeting consistently, and even in sales training, the workshops that got the highest marks as it pertains to applicability were sharing.
Mhm.
I was
Yes.
sharing
Mhm.
what went well, and then what people were doing were right sizing it to their truth as how they showed up, but
Mhm.
also to
Mhm.
their region, to their geography. I can pick, play, pull these things that will work for me. We want custom solutions
Yeah.
now. It's not
Yeah.
a peanut butter
Yeah,
spread.
and peer to peer. I think what
Yes.
that says is the sharing is that element of, like, I'm learning directly from someone else who has lived experience,
Yes.
and we know that trainings can help provide that environment, because I think I'd be interesting to ask some of our friends where the high marks come, because I know for me, anytime that I've gone to a training, anytime that I've gone to a keynote talk or a
Uh-huh.
conference, the thing that people are always asking for more time to do in those experiences is to connect with another person who has the lived experience.
Why don't we've heard this for decades. Why are we
Decades.
not designing around
I know. Well,
this?
I think some organizations
The good
are,
organizations
the
are.
good
Yes.
organizations, the good practitioners are. They're building in that time
Yes.
for sharing. They're building in those moments of human connection to help see how something is done. I like
Yeah.
to call it show, not tell. Like, I think a lot
Mm.
of organizations take a tell approach, right? They
Yes.
build, call it like a leadership, like a,
Academy or something?
yeah, leadership academy, or like a framework for like
Yeah.
the boxes that need to be checked, right?
Mhm.
And so telling they're telling the organization what they expect them to do. But
Mm.
this sharing that you're talking about is more of the show. And actually, the program that you developed when we were at the company together was a lot of sharing, a
Was a
lot of
lot of
showing.
sharing.
It was these, I remember sitting on the calls with
Yeah.
leaders and executives really getting into the share of what good looked like.
Well, yes, and remember that that also means a capability shift too in L&D leaders is you need more moderators and
Yes.
people that can draw stories out of individuals so
Mhm.
that you can really identify and hear that lived experience.
And
Um,
creating a safe space. I think
yes.
that automatically there is a tension and an expectation that comes when you walk into something that feels like a classroom.
Mhm.
Even if even the best practitioners try to make it not feel like a classroom, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
there is this sort of like onus of, I'm taking time out of my regular day job, which is already really hard to get leaders and individuals to do. I'm walking into this space with a lot of people that I potentially don't know, and it feels like a classroom. So
Yes.
all of a sudden, it feels performative.
Sterile.
It feels sterile. It feels
Yes.
performative. I have to get the A,
Yeah.
right? I have to do it really, really right. And it doesn't feel like a space for learning. And so I also wonder if there's, something in the environment and how we create new
Mm.
environments and new safe spaces that, instead of making someone feel like they're walking into a traditional workshop or a traditional classroom, they're actually coming into a space that's meant for connection.
Yeah, I have 2 things. I gotta write them down because
Okay,
otherwise I'll
do
forget it.
it.
But I wanna riff off of what you just said too about, like, what's really happening is when we've said this before, is the leaders that we want to come to trainings too often don't come,
and it's
or we
and it's the ones who are
it's
already
the
tapped
one
out
yes!
who are also showing up to the training.
Yes, and, what I feel like is we need to stop making leaders who are more seasoned feel like they have to be perfect there, because
Mhm.
as leaders right now, and we talk about change makers. Some of the change makers are the younger generation, And there has to be some reverse mentorship going on here. So I wish we could stop also saying, well, all you seasoned leaders in here, because I learned just as much
Oh,
about what,
absolutely.
the next
Absolutely.
generation wants. And so if you think you're too good and you know all of these things, I would say check yourself,
Check
because
yourself.
we are always growing.
Well, and not only that, but with this emerging future, the new way of working, nobody has the book.
No, there's no
Nobody has the
playbook.
book. The playbook that you are running right now, I have for the leader that might say, I don't need to go to that training or I don't need to do that workshop, you don't have the playbook.
Yeah. Yes.
You're about to be like slapped in the face and it's coming for you because we need an entirely new playbook.
Yeah.
And I do agree with you. I think that the practitioners, the people, the ones who are looking around the corner, who are seeing what is coming, we can learn something from each one of those people. And most often, those are not your traditional, like high level leader, at least right now. I think that more leaders are coming on board. But it is the person who still has a lot of curiosity, who hasn't become embedded in their sense of expertise, who still thinks of themselves as a learner and is willing to look beyond. The other thing I wanted to say about this is my mind has been blown since moving more into entrepreneurship and running my own consulting, because growth in the entrepreneurship space looks so different than it did and does in a corporate environment. And it's like it blows the socks off of what's happening inside corporations in a really inspiring way, because growth becomes about real results, like real expansion of who you are, not just what you do.
Yes.
And that expansion, like I paid $100,000 for my MBA and I really liked it. But it
I didn't know which way that was going.
And I really liked it, but it didn't necessarily move the needle in my expansion.
Yeah.
In like putting me in a position of being someone different and stepping into new spaces and really like owning a new sense of calling. Now, stepping into entrepreneurship, I've paid a lot of money for coaches. I've paid a lot of money for conferences, all of very different experiences than what I had inside corporate. And my life has changed. My entire life has changed, not just like the business that I do, my whole life.
But I want to say something that, again, that you might not be going here, but when you were talking, I'm thinking,
Take me there.
An MBA was like a check the box.
It was a check the box.
You are
100%.
in control now of your destiny as an entrepreneur. You've been deciding, here's what I need. Here's what. So my question is, why would we not be able to design something like that in organizations?
That's what I think.
We can break rules. We do not like to break rules.
Yeah.
Also, I want to bring this up is, and we'll get to this when we talk about the reframe, but I am going to say this very boldly: stop dressing people up for the prom and leaving them at home by themselves. So we do all of these programs, and my first question is, where are we going to put these people?
Right.
Where are we going to put these people? And heaven forbid they would leave the organization. And so I think it's really important that you're thinking about the honest conversation. If somebody does go through a program, somebody does go through a rotation, what is the fair thing to do?
Yeah.
Don't let them sit in an expanded role and don't get paid for a year.
Right.
I would quit.
Right.
I would quit. And I said that to people.
And you should. And I think this is the thing when we talk a lot about this. Organizations need to start embracing and understanding that you are not going to have the same people working for you forever.
No.
And any training that you might provide to them, growth opportunity, rotations, like let's
coaching.
Let's make training mean something different, right?
Yeah.
In the context of this conversation, I don't mean like sit in a room training.
Right.
I mean real growth and expansion.
Capability
for people.
building.
Exactly.
Yes.
Making that investment, and then you have to be willing to make that investment knowing that some of the people that you grow and expand are going to grow and expand out of your organization. You still have to be willing to make the investment, because if you do, they're going to boomerang. They're going to send talent back to you, because if you become a place where people can truly grow and learn and foster their careers in meaningful ways, not in burnout ways, you're going to be a magnet to talent.
They're going to tell their friends.
They're going to tell their friends.
Yes, absolutely.
And if you're a person who is currently here's a if you're currently not getting paid for the extra that you're doing, like, it is time to start
Yes.
going to find another role. It's not worth it. It's not worth it because that company, and this is just the truth of it. The company is not gonna keep you just because they gave you that
No.
development opportunity. The second the next top talent comes in that can do the job better than you, they're gonna get the role. I
Yep.
mean, how many people do we know, even ourselves,
Ourselves.
who were
Yes.
developed, we were groomed practically for roles and then didn't get the
Yeah.
role. And so it's really important that both organizations and our top performers and people who want to grow, you're just really realistic and open
Yeah.
to understanding talent's going to go and I have capacity to be a free agent and decide where
Yes.
I take my expertise.
Yes. And it goes back to too just the crux of why we're here too is peeling the onion and getting rid of the bullshit and being honest is
Mhm.
we want to say, oh, we gave them this opportunity, they're going to stay. Do you know what most leaders are thinking? God, please let them stay, please let them stay. Like
Right?
there and there I see there are no guarantees in
No.
life. There are no guarantees. And so I do think you are absolutely right as we talk about this. And the other thing that I would say too is it we are going to look we stop creating rotations for a specific role because
Ah.
those
Uh-huh.
roles may not even exist. I
Yeah.
think it goes back to what are the capabilities that we are going to need as an organization, and let's get you exposure in some way to grow that capability.
Okay, so let's actually talk about like I feel like we've nailed it on a few big shifts and I might
Yes.
just name them. Like I'm closing my eyes cuz I can like see them, but
I
what
thought you were envisioning lunch. Okay.
I am really hungry. But I think we've named one shift, which is we have to reimagine what learning and
Mhm.
development and training looks like inside organizations. And there are a lot of places where we can get inspiration from to do that.
Yes.
I think the other thing I'm hearing you say is the future of work is not going to look like it does today.
Mhm.
So go ahead and like put on your glasses of what's possible and start
Mhm.
giving people, don't add work to their plate, give them gig work, pull them out
Yes.
of their experience, create rotations that actually give people meaningful, expansive
Mhm.
experiences. And then I think the third thing that I've heard is just everyone on both sides remembering that the investment is worthwhile for however long someone stays in a
Yes.
position. But when it's time to go, go,
Go. Go.
go.
Don't hoard we talk about, like, don't hoard talent internally, and we often think about that as, "Well, I'm not gonna tell Marissa about this opportunity,"
Mm,
but just
mm,
period.
mhm.
If you have somebody who is given to your organization in a really meaningful way and it is not serving them anymore and or it is time for them you do not have a role for them, guess what?
Yeah.
They can see it too. Do you
Yes.
remember one time we were at an organization and I said, well, why don't you talk to somebody about what are the opportunities externally? And this leader said, I'm not bringing that up. They might leave. And I thought do you
They're
not
already
know
out the
that
door.
about the internet? They are reading the internet. They know that there's other jobs out there. I think those are, as a leader, those are the moments if you look back and you think about I know people that you have
Mhm,
mentored and you have developed. And when you said to them, I don't have the role here. I
mhm,
have a huge network. Let me help you find what you need.
mhm,
And we've
mhm.
seen boomerangs. We've seen them come back,
Yes.
which are so good for your brand.
So good for your brand and also good for the institutional knowledge that comes back to the organization. And we
Absolutely.
also had a CEO who really supported that. He was
Yes.
super excited whenever we had a boomerang. And almost everybody who left, he'd
It
be
made
like,
me want to leave just to
just
come
to
back.
come.
One other thing on the
Mhm,
reframe that I'm
mhm.
thinking about as well is we said something about expectations is
Yeah.
if you are going to grow and stretch your people, be very clear and give them the space and set them up for success. And
Yes.
do not tell them if you don't have a role for them and you are not sure, be honest
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Like don't promise them false things or even give them false hope. It will really derail the culture of your organization.
Well, and I would say too, in addition to that, be very clear about whether this is development for a promotion or a
Yes.
role, or it's development for development's sake.
Yeah.
Because I think things get sticky in that, where a lot of people, especially high performers, high achievers, they think that they're taking on development in service to something bigger for themselves, in service to a promotion, in service to a higher paycheck potentially, other things. And it's not that development for development's sake isn't important to them, but it's kind of like, if I'm going to burn myself out, at least let it be worth right? At least let it be worth something. It's kind of like, I can walk through mud for 20 miles, but God, I'm not going to walk through it for free.
No.
Do you know?
Absolutely.
For 20 miles. I might walk through it for 5 to get the thing. But be very clear, because otherwise it starts, obviously I'm heated about this because this is what happened to me. But,
I like it.
But you start to think you can work through a certain level of difficulty.
Yeah.
Because the payoff might be worth it.
Right.
And growth and development can come in a lot of different ways.
Yes.
It does not need to come with burnout.
No,
and so be very
absolutely.
clear about how hard somebody's going to have to work to get the thing that actually matters to them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't put them through it.
Well, and there's this old adage that just bothers the hell out of me and I just don't understand. And again, like I can be pretty tough sometimes, but when a leader says, "Oh, they were one of the worst leaders I ever had," they were like, and they say some very awful things about their experience. So they're like, "But I did learn this," and it's not that profound. And I think to myself, why did you do that? Why did you even stay in that? And that's what I think about taking a role as a stretch project and burning out. You are going to remember the negative pieces of it,
right?
Especially the generation that's coming up now. They're not going to want your burnout baggage. They're going to be like, I want to do this. And again, like, I see nothing wrong with it. They want to feel supported. They want to have clarity. And so because you burnt out doing something before, don't do that to somebody else.
Don't do it to somebody else. And also, no, they're not going to do it.
Yeah, they won't do
this
it.
next generation is not doing it. They're not. The next gen is already called the therapist. They didn't burn out first and then called. They're already on the phone and they already
got
know.
A lifeline. They're like, do you know what they used to do to people? If I need a lifeline, but
have kids and a job? No way. I'm not having kids. Like, how many people are like, they're and I'm proud of them. They're making decisions that make much more sense. And every generation learns, right?
Yes.
This is all conditioning that's getting stripped away. And we're about to walk into this next phase where, those of us who are still kind of figuring out how to decondition from some of this, it's like, we got to figure it out now.
Yes.
Like if you don't have your therapist on speed dial, like, let's get it going, or a coach or someone, because we don't have, we're offering some reframes here. But this idea of reframing and deconditioning in order to make change possible for ourselves and for organizations is becoming more and more important, because pretty soon you're not going to have time to catch up.
No.
You're going to have already known it.
Yes.
I keep saying like growth mindset. And, did I say that already on this podcast where I was like, if you're an organization that hasn't yet actually done growth mindset, like you better start doing it. So many are talking about it, but haven't done it.
I know. Yes. No, I think you're absolutely right. And I want to give credit to all facets of growth, but then it goes back to something that we said too, is if you're not sure what growth and development and, need to look like in your organization, start asking your consumers and a swath of your employees, because what got you there is not going to, get you forward. Now we are very clear on that. And we need to, I mean, now I'm going to say this too, is like, I'm going to get my learning from wherever I want.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need you to tell me where to get my learning. I need a roadmap of what matters most, and then I will figure it out. And then I need curated experiences. And so I think, we are very open to hearing all sorts of opportunities, and we've got a lot of L&D friends, and I think that would be a good guest too, to think about how they're navigating the path forward in a different day and age. But the big thing that we talked about too is, in order to set people up for success and growth opportunities, you have to really understand them. You need to know their motivations. You need to have an honest conversation with them. You got to peel the onion. You got to be brave about what can and cannot happen as part of this growth opportunity.
Absolutely. And then we're going to send everybody a What Would Scott Do bracelet.
Yes. He's going to love that.
I know.
I think one day we'll get a t-shirt. We'll get or a
we're
pillow.
Gonna have merch. We need like a merch store with random quotes. Thank you so much for being part of this episode. You can find us on LinkedIn. Our links will be in the show notes, and we can't wait to see you on the next episode.
Thanks, everyone.